So good afternoon, everyone. It's a good afternoon, right? It's sunny outside, the flags are flying, getting ready to enjoy summer and our nation's birthday with the flags out to thank those who preserved our freedoms in the beginning, to fight for our country's independence, and then to preserve our freedoms by being in our armed forces during the world wars, and particularly the Greatest Generation, which I see a few of you out here from the Greatest Generation, those who either fought in the war or supported someone who went off to war to defend our country and the world against fascism and Nazism and horrible things that were going on at that time, and to preserve our own freedoms. And so as the flags fly and we look at this important crossroads that our nation's at and our state is at, particularly as we are around the corner from July 4th celebrations, I think it's important to underscore, and this is what this press conference is about, the care that we should give to those who've contributed to our freedoms and contributed to building California, and that is you, and that is the group of folks, including my mom, who's not here today, but she's 84 and is able to live for now at an independent living center. But she was a war mom when Dad went off to war and spent 5 years gone and about 2.5 years in a hospital after being disabled in the war. But the sacrifices are so many. The contributions, the group of veterans that came back, the spouses who were waiting for them, built families, for those who went to work in our factories during the war, who became the riveters, Rosie the Riveter types, who built our bridges after the war, built our community centers, built our parks, built our dams and water systems. California was a great state in those years after the war when we had this generation that you represent out there working hard to build dreams and build a future, and a bright future for California. Without the sacrifices and the support you gave, we wouldn't enjoy the quality of life we have or the economy we have today. And so we're so pleased to be here at the Mount Diablo Adult Day Health Center to look at something that is not in the way that we would like to see as a thank you or an honoring to you and the sacrifices you've made, and to the participants at this Day Health Center. We're here to look at draconian cuts in the budget and to talk about what we can do about it and how we can turn it around, because these cuts are intolerable, they're unconscionable, they're without heart and without honor to the great state and the great contributions you have made, and so many that are needing today in-home health services. So we want to talk about the fact that we've already been out on the road around California looking at cuts to education, to what's going to affect our younger folks who are coming up, the teenagers and youngsters in grade school. I was talking to Margot, your director here, that is an issue. Even just the work preparedness, the good staff that they've been able to recruit here is harder and harder to find because of the cuts to education, and we need to put that aside today. That's another part of this budget battle. But we have a budget problem, a crisis, that's mainly self-inflicted, that most of the cuts are coming because revenues were reduced. Governor Schwarzenegger decided to cut a car tax which brought $6 billion into the budget if we'd had it today, and we've been borrowing and borrowing since we haven't had that money. So now we have this huge hole in the state budget, and the proposal is to cut programs that are vital to you, cut programs that are vital to our state and to Contra Costa County. So we're pleased today that we have a coalition of people who are those that are the partners, the county government, represented by Supervisor John Joya, the assembly member who is a former supervisor, Mark DeSaulnier. We're here because we care. We think the creative partnership that's been established to provide care at a great center like this should be continued. We should not be cutting. We should be adding. We should be honoring you all and those that are going to come after you as our population ages and we are less able to take care of ourselves. And so what goes on here is vital: the rehabilitation services, the physical therapy, the other therapies that go on here, the chance to get a good nutritious meal, the chance to get exercise, the chance to have a social context in your lives is so vitally important. And we know it not only is humane, where these cuts are inhumane, we know that these programs are are the right thing to do. It also is a sense of dollars and cents. It's also makes sense to do this because without these kinds of services, illnesses get worse, and the ability to live independently, to live at all without intensive care through emergency rooms and hospitalized care and around-the-clock care in institutions, those costs go up. And so this is a case also of pay now or pay later, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, and penny wise, pound foolish. It's wise to do what we're doing here at the Mount Diablo Adult Daycare Health Center and across this state at other health centers that are doing the same thing. And so we're going to hear today what it will mean. In the governor's proposed budget, we have a proposal to cut $266 million out of in-home support services and programs like this. And in addition, there's a cut to Alzheimer's programs. Talking to Margot and looking with Debbie at the arithmetic for the clients here that are supported by these state programs, this is about a 15% cut, 15, possibly as high as 20% cutback. We can't tolerate this. We stand opposed to this. Senator Parada, our leader in the Senate, has said we need to look at restoring the revenues that were cut, the taxes that we had that Californians were willing to give and just gave. Only a few years ago, 10 years ago, Californians were paying $10, $11 billion more per year in taxes, and everybody thought it was a good deal. We were doing good things with that money, and that is here in this instance. We're doing good things by having the excellent staff and the wonderful services at Mount Diablo Adult Day Health Center. The cuts to Contra Costa County would be about $3 million when you look at the total cuts across to the services that would be provided by you. So we're here today to learn what that means to real people, to you who are part of this greatest generation. And as the flags fly, we want to look at how we can work together to oppose these cuts and to bring information to the governor. Because I believe the governor, in his heart of hearts, does not want to make these kind of cuts. And it takes us to translate what it means on a personal level, what it means to individuals now in terms of their quality of life, and what it will mean to the budget later on if we make these illogical cuts and inhumane cuts. So at this time, I'm pleased to be able to introduce to you one of your residents and one of our friends who's experienced the benefits of in-home health services. This is Margaret Fideli and her caregiver, Amy, and they'll tell a story that we'd like to share with you now. Margaret? I think I'm going to go this way. The cord isn't long enough, but I think the mic will work for you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, I'm just here to say that if it wasn't for this place and whatnot, I'd be home just doing nothing. But between my granddaughter taking care of me, I'm able to get out and come here and get treated, where I don't have to be put away somewhere, that I can live on my own, in my own bedroom and whatnot. And it's because of having the care, too, through my granddaughter, and that I'm able to get out and come here and be able to do things. Otherwise, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Thank you, Margaret. That's the case for so many of your friends here and the others who are here. Amy, could you come around? I think the cord will not be long enough to reach that far, but you can come this way. Thanks. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Fideli. I'm Margaret Fideli's granddaughter and her IHSS caregiver. And if it wasn't for this program, my grandma wouldn't be as independent as she is today. At one point, she lived in Brooklyn, and she lived with her sister, and she had never stepped foot out of the house. She'd come out maybe once a year. She'd come out to California, and she had to go into nursing home. She got diagnosed with Lewy body, but come out, and she joined this rehabilitation place, and she's now walking to the bus and coming off the bus walking, and I help her into her bed, and she's able to walk around the house and cook and do things that she wasn't able to do in Brooklyn. And for the IHSS workers, it's very important that they don't do cuts, because if it wasn't for IHSS workers, people like my grandma would be put into nursing homes when they do still have a chance to be able to live on their own and independently. Before Grandma had joined the center and she'd gotten more hours for IHSS, I had to work 3 jobs, and I wasn't able to help Grandma at the time, but IHSS came in and gave us some more hours, and I was able to stop working 3 jobs and work with Grandma and have one stable job and be able to take care of her. So I definitely am pro IHSS, and I do not believe in the cuts. I believe that IHSS and also Mount Diablo Center has helped my grandma become independent and be able to live on her own.
Thank you, Amy. You did a great job describing what it means to you and to your grandma. So she mentioned something which is also the hours and the wages, or the what we are able to pay our in-home support service workers. And the next couple of speakers will speak more to this, but to get the quality that provides the level of care and the quality of care, to have the good things that Amy talked about, it takes paying for it. You get what you pay for, is another saying. And I remember when my mom had hernia surgery and needed to have a caregiver for 3 weeks at home in Daly City, and eventually she had hip surgery, and I moved her out close to me in Antioch. I remember that it was very difficult to find the quality care provider that would work in my mom's home or with her. And if you don't pay enough, you don't get the quality. And that's a key part of what we're talking about here. Just to say 10, 15%, 20% cut, and somebody can take less, then you're not going to get the quality of providers. And they can be forgetful. They can be, not as personal and not as caring as the kind of people that you have here at Mount Diablo Center. So at this time, I'd like to ask Debbie Toth to come forward, and then we'll hear from a county supervisor who can speak more to these points. Debbie, our Executive Director of Mount Diablo Center.
Thank you, Senator Torlakson. I am very honored to have our legislators here today. This is a most important time to speak out, because California cannot afford these cuts, either ethically or economically. They make no sense. If we cut off people's ability to remain living independently, we're essentially placing them in institutions. Institutions cost 4 times what it costs for people to come to adult day health care. Part of adult day health care, part of the reason that we're able to keep people living independently is because we work in conjunction with in-home support services. We can't go to people's homes and do their laundry. We can't help them get them into bed. We can't help them shower at home. There are things that we can't do in adult day health care that people need in-home support services for. And it is this entire network of care that is not being cut, but is being chopped with these current 10% rate cuts across the board. It's unthinkable, it's unfathomable, and the fact that we could turn our backs on the people who have made this country what it is today is unconscionable. And so I am really, really honored to have, and our county is here too supporting this. Our Director of Aging and Adult Services, John Cottrell, is here, and half of his staff is here supporting us. And it's this community together that works to keep people with dignity and independence, and we want our state to support this. And it's time for our state to step up and realize that making the budget balance is not just about cutting and slashing programs. It's about finding revenue and providing some sort of balance. So thank you very much for coming.
Great job, Debbie. She does a great job day to day, right? Everybody knows what a wonderful director she is here, full of enthusiasm and all the great, kind, good heart she has. And now John Joya, who will talk about what it means to the county perspective, Contra Costa County, a great supervisor who's led on health care, led on human services advocacy, and is here to talk about the partnership with the state and what it means if we pull the rug out from under that partnership.
Thank you, Senator Torlakson. I'm John Joya, and I'm on the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors. And first, welcome to everybody today. We appreciate all of you being out here because this is really an important issue. And both Senator Torlakson and Assemblymember DeSaulnier were on the Board of Supervisors, so they also understand sort of this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is truly a prevention service. You know, there's over 5,000 in-home care workers in Contra Costa County. And it is one of the most effective, best investments in prevention. As others have said, if you can take care of people in their home in a way that's humane and respects them, where they can also come out and be at an adult day program like here at the Mount Diablo Center, you preserve people's integrity, they live a life with better quality, and they don't have to be institutionalized, where it costs substantially more dollars. And, you know, several years ago, home care workers were paid minimum wage. Think about that. Minimum wage to do a very challenging job, taking care of people with many needs, taking care of loved ones. It makes no sense to pay them minimum wage. Fortunately, over the past few years, wages have been able to go up. Frankly, still not high enough. And then hours. The need for more hours to care for people has been growing as well as our population continues to age all over the country and here in Contra Costa. And cutbacks at the state level in the IHSS program have such dramatic impacts. We're going to pay more over time substantially as a society and as a county if there are cutbacks in the IHSS system. In Contra Costa, home care workers are on a registry that we maintain. So we know firsthand how important that is. We also know that if people don't get the proper preventative care, they're going to come to our health clinics and our hospitals where it'll cost even more to serve people. That's why investing in home care is important, and ultimately it's not only the best thing for all of your quality of life and all of us as we age, but also it's a good tax investment, the best thing for taxpayers, because we're able at a more minimal cost to keep people in centers like this and living at home independently. So our message is that we need to be aggressive about finding other sources of revenue so we don't have to make these type of cuts. And as the senator said, we've had greater revenues, they're just being cut. And if you look at our revenue system in the state, whether it's Prop 13, we need to fix those things so all of you and all of us in the future aren't going to face a more deteriorated quality of life. And I want to, for those who are in the home care industry, and I want to thank all of the providers here today because you all do a wonderful job. How can we expect providers to care for people when they've got to worry about their own making ends meet in their own lives? If you're not paid enough, you're trying to figure out how to get your own health care, how to survive with your own family. So we want to make sure that home care workers feel comfortable and are supported so that they can take care of all of you and all of us when we age. So thank you.
Thank you, John. You've been a valiant leader on these service issues and advocacy for them as you've been on the Board of Supervisors. A former member of the Board of Supervisors, another good friend of mine and one who has done an outstanding job in just a short time in Sacramento as your Assembly member. Mark DeSaulnier is here. He's also been a champion, valiantly fighting for these kinds of programs and the sense of doing prevention as a key part of our health care. Mark DeSaulnier.
Thanks, Tom. Well, I don't know, it's always tough when you're towards the end, so I appreciate you all sticking with us. I wanted to talk briefly, and I also wanted to thank Debbie and everyone who's hosting this event. I've been out here in the past. I've been to all kinds of activities. Unfortunately, this sort of annual activity where you all have to come and list some politicians, it's nice to see you all here. It's not quite as probably lively and enjoyable as some of the other activities here, and it's unfortunate that we're here. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about obligation and responsibility, because Tom hit on this about responsibility. My mom is 86. She lives in Marin. Fortunately, we're able to afford to have her, my siblings and I, live in a very nice facility by Catholic Charities. My father is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. He was in the United States Marine Corps and served in the South Pacific. And as Tom said, many of you are part of the greatest generation, and we have an obligation to provide for you. It's not an entitlement. It's not something that you should be concerned about. We shouldn't have these kind of press conferences. It's an obligation by our generation and subsequent generations to repay what you did as citizens of this great country. As Debbie and John mentioned, this is an effective program. There was an agreement and obligation some years ago, actually when Governor Reagan was the governor of California, that we would deinstitutionalize a lot of programs, from kids programs and foster care and group homes to get rid of orphanages and get kids back into communities, at-risk kids. And likewise for seniors and people at risk in middle age, that we would take them out of institutions and keep them in their communities and keep us all connected. That would make a healthier and vibrant community and add to our responsibility and obligations, all of us connected to one another, but it was also efficient. Now what we have, as Senator Torlakson said, is a self-created problem in California. And one of the frustrations I've had in the year and a half I've been up there, and I've had this discussion with Governor Schwarzenegger personally, is this is easily solvable. Both the Senate Democrats and the Assembly Democrats have agreed that we need to cut. All of us are grown-ups. We know that the economy and life goes up and down. We know that there's not as much revenue, so we have to cut programs. Everyone in this room knows that. We know that in those ups and downs periods, we have to be very careful about how we cut. But we want to meet our colleagues and the governor, our Republican colleagues, at least halfway, that look at revenue increasements. So the two biggest revenue increasements that have caused this problem, Tom alluded to it, was the vehicle license fee that the governor undid. It was at one rate for 50 years. Nobody complained about it. We dropped it. It's cost us almost $15 billion over the years since it's been dropped. If we had that, we wouldn't have the budget crisis we have. Secondarily, and Governor Wilson actually was the architect of much of this when he was governor, a Republican governor, who offered the same thing we're offering now, was meet us halfway. Give us cuts, but give us revenue changes. And all we're asking to is reinstitute those changes that helped to solve the problem in the 90s when we had the same problems. The other big taxes for the top 5% income earners in this state, and most importantly, the top 1%. So households who make over $600,000 a year would change their rate back to 11% income tax from 9%. That's where it was for many years. That would give us $4.2 billion. I think that's an obligation for all of us to chip in. As Madison once said many, many years ago, taxes are the price you pay for democracy. Well, unfortunately, we just have to pay a little to meet our obligation to you and other people in our society. So we're here to tell you that we're fighting for you, and I'm just delighted to be here with my friends who, unfortunately, we've done this over and over again. But we need some help from you. We need you to advocate for yourself and for us that in the next few months, we don't want the state of California to go off a cliff, because where we're going right now, in a few months, we may run out of money. And these programs will actually shut down, and school may not be able to reopen in September. We don't want to do that. We want to resolve this problem right now for this year, but we also don't want to be back here in subsequent years, because this obligation and this responsibility you paid in your life when you were out earning an income and raising a family, and we feel that all of us who are in that generation now owe that to you. So thank you for being here, and I'm just delighted again to be here with all of my colleagues who are part of this presentation.
And I want to thank my colleagues, my friends here that are on the same page working forward with you. We want to wrap this up with a couple of thoughts. And again, as the flags are flying out there, Debbie underscored the idea of dignity and having our dignity as long as we can in our lives, and respecting each other and honoring each other. And so as July 4th rounds the corner and we are to celebrate all the great sacrifices made by those of you who helped build our state, all the infrastructure, all the human services, and defend our freedoms overseas in World War II and in Korea, we want to honor you and not dishonor you by having these cuts. And the clock is ticking, as Assemblymember Mark DeSaulnier just said. The state literally runs out of cash coming out at the end of August and into September. We are saying we will not tolerate these cuts. We have to get the message to the governor of how draconian and inhumane these cuts are. And we need your help. So talk to your family and your friends. Write letters to the governor. We have an action plan going with tens of thousands of PTA moms and dads who are concerned about the cuts to schools. We need you to join that force of Californians saying no to these horrible cuts. We have the means. We're a wealthy state, one of the largest economies in the world. And if only we just went back to the level of taxation we had, just restore the revenues that we've cut over the last 10 years, we would have $11 billion more in the budget, and these horrible cuts to Mount Diablo Center and programs like this would not be happening. So we want to thank everybody who's been here and urge you to write letters, and some of you who do email can email the governor and email other legislators who have not taken a stand. Mark and I have taken a stand and saying we hear from California who say they're willing to raise taxes and restore the money that we used to pay to state government in order to provide the quality services that we're talking about here. And so we need to go to those legislators who haven't made that statement and commitment yet, and let's fight together to not have these cuts occur. I want to thank and first just want to recognize John Cottrell, Director of Aging and Adult Services, and your staff. Could anybody on the staff, and John, raise your hands. Let's thank them for what they do day in and day out. Thank you. You are leaders in leading for this quality of care that we're fighting for here today. And then to Margot and Debbie and everybody here, the staff at Mount Diablo Health Center, Day Center, let's thank them. They're doing a marvelous job. We want to thank your home team here, and let's get out and fight together. Let's defend the dignity of the greatest generation, and all of you are here by honoring you by not making these budget cuts. Thank you very much.